We would like to acknowledge the Yuggera people and the Turrbal people as the traditional custodians of Meanjin, the lands on which we record this podcast today. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. Always was, always will be, Aboriginal land.
All right, welcome to another episode of For the Health of It podcast, a podcast made for healthcare professionals by a nurse on the inside. My name is Jess Tully and I'm the registered nurse with HCA, but I'm also the brand ambassador. Now, today we have one of our very own HCA staff members on with me today. She's a gorgeous midwife all the way from New South Wales. Her name is Meg, and we are talking about a hot topic of not only going on your first contract ever, but also going to Tasmania, which is a topic that I love to talk about because Tasmania is such a gorgeous part of Australia. And I think so many people don't realise that unless they visited themselves. So a huge welcome on For the Health of It podcast to Meg. Say hello, Meg.
Thanks, Jess. Thanks for having me on.
We are stoked to talk about everything today. So first of all, tell me a little bit about you. You just mentioned in a little pre-chat that you are from Young, New South Wales. Is that where you studied your midwifery?
Yeah, that's right. So I've travelled quite extensively with my study and work. I grew up in a tiny little country town called Canowindra in central West New South Wales. And I had to leave home to go away to university. So I went and studied in Coffs Harbour for 2 years and did a Bachelor of Midwifery up there. Loved it. But then COVID hit and changed a lot of our plans. And like a lot of us, I moved home to do lockdown with my family. And I commenced studying through distance with the University of Canberra. And I attended all my placement locally to home, in the area of Canowindra, which was great because I had a taste for country hospitals during my study. And then when I finished that degree, I went to Broken Hill, so way out in the desert on the very edge of New South Wales, close to South Australia, and worked in a midwifery group practice out there for my new graduate year. I loved it, so I stayed a little bit longer, but I was always pulled back to my family here in the Central West, so I came back and I'm now working at Young, which is about an hour south of where I was originally born and raised, so nice and close to home, but also loving being part of a new community and making a new life for myself.
That's amazing. And also it's so hard that you had to try and study distant, having that distant study with university. It always hits my heartstrings when I hear students having to do that because it totally changes the experience of university, hey?
Yeah, absolutely. I honestly feel like I didn't have that social university experience. I kind of missed out on that. But I got to stay home with my family in a time that was really hard on the world, and there were a lot of families that were separated. So, it tossed it up which one is more important to you. And since then, I've caught up on the social life that I missed out on.
Oh, that's good. It sounds like you made the right decision. Absolutely. And I've heard great things about Broken Hill Hospital. So that would have definitely been an amazing experience learning there. So I guess, is that because you were kind of had that exposure to those smaller kind of hospitals, is that what made you want to do the kind of rural remote, nursing midwifery kind of lifestyle?
Yeah, look, to be honest, I think a tertiary hospital would make me more nervous than working rural and remote, just because I have had very limited experience working in a tertiary setting. Throughout my studies, I did 2 placements in a tertiary setting. The rest were small country hospitals. And so that's where I feel most comfortable. And I guess that's the environment that I feel good about. So when HCA said, "Are you happy to go rural and remote?" I was like, "Oh, please send me somewhere rural and remote because that's what I like and I'm familiar with." And I find it incredibly fulfilling being a midwife in those places because you can really use your scope to its full capacity. And it's a really great place to learn and push yourself as well.
Oh, I couldn't agree anymore. So I guess what taught me through the experience of joining. So we had a little chat before and you mentioned it was a bit of a longer process than we imagined. It was about 8 weeks. I usually say to people around the 4, maybe 6 week marker. And that's just as a nurse myself and my experiences because of immunization requirements, working with children check, that whole shabam. But yours is 8 weeks, which is a bit long. But run me through that process of like kind of getting onboarded. Was it overwhelming? Was it easy? Were you kind of, tell me everything.
Yes. So I've just attended my first contract with Healthcare Australia. Otherwise, I've been working with New South Wales Health for my career so far. I just wanted a little bit of a change, and I thought I would do a little bit of a working holiday. So I, like everyone else, thought, right, I'll just join an agency and it'll be super easy. I think I was naive. I just didn't know what I didn't know, and I honestly didn't have any expectations either. Like you were saying, it took me about 8 weeks to get all my ducks in a row and figure everything out. There were lots of different aspects to the onboarding process that I just probably hadn't thought about, to be completely honest. I don't know what I was expecting when I onboarded. I was lucky, and I am still lucky, that I have a really great, caseworker kind of person in Healthcare Australia that facilitates everything for me. And while she tried to push things through as quickly as she could, it was taking some time with vaccinations and getting proof of vaccinations. And there was a lot of education that was different to what I had previously done with my role with New South Wales Health, that needed to do probably like close to about 25 hours worth of education, which
Damn.
took a lot of time. Thank goodness for some very slow night shifts at work. They got that done there, but that really slowed me up as well. And then it's just, paperwork can be a bit tedious sometimes. And when a lot of people that go into agency are working at the time as well, balancing doing a lot of paperwork with working a full-time job and trying to maintain a life as well. You just don't have the time, unfortunately, to sit down in one day and smash it all out. You do little bits and pieces, and then before you know it, 8 weeks have passed and you're finally at the end of it. But it's a relief that now once you're onboarded, that is done. A little bit of maintenance paperwork here and there, but the majority of the work is done now, which is great.
So good. I think so many people don't realize, like, I work in obviously the office of Healthcare Australia now, because I do 3 days a week as the brand ambassador, and I see the behind the scenes of the rural remote consultants, and there's so much work. Like, they do so much work behind the scenes that we don't kind of realize. And some people will message and just be like, hello, and this will be a Thursday, and they'll be like, I'm ready to do a contract on Monday, please. And they've never been with us. Like, we haven't even looked at their CV yet. And people just have no idea how long it actually can take sometimes. 8 weeks is a bit of a long stretch, but yeah, normally 4 weeks is the sweet spot. It took 3 months for my working with children check for the Northern Territory. I was baffled at how long that took. And my police clearance, oh gosh. So yeah, it takes a bit of time. So yeah, always just chat with your consultant about everything. But I'm glad you finally got it all sorted. So did you always want to go to Tasmania, or is that just something that popped up?
Yeah, it literally just popped up. I wanted to go somewhere warm near the beach where I could have like a
That is not warm.
And I was like, I'm just going to like go and, live by the ocean. And I looked at a few Queensland places, but I just had this weird gut feeling that none of them were quite right. Like, none of them I instantly went, yeah, that's the one. And then my lovely consultant sent me the hugest spreadsheet of all the vacancies in Australia, and it was so overwhelming because I was like, I just had no idea. I knew I wanted to go somewhere that I hadn't been before, and that was about it, really. So I called her and I was like, just choose something for me. Where do you think would be good? And she was like, oh, well, little Tasmania is always quite short and pay is really great. She's like, and have you been to Tasmania? I was like, oh no. I was like, is it cold? She's like, it is cold. And I'm like, okay, is there a beach? She's like, yeah, there's a beach. I was like, okay, that'll be fine. Let's just do that. So it was so random. When I told my partner that I was going to Tasmania, he was like, are you sure? Is that really what you want to be spending your holiday going to? And I was like, yeah, it's fine. It'll be all good. So yeah, it was a bit of a whim, honestly, to be honest. But as a child, we traveled a lot through Australia camping, and Tasmania was the only place that we haven't been to.
Oh.
So I did a competition with my family to do who can go to all the states first. So I've now won that little family competition. So that was very fine.
Love that.
Yeah. So yeah, I found myself down in little Tasmania.
Did you drive or did you fly?
I flew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And if you had to do it again, or you had the choice to do it again, would you fly again or would you drive?
I would definitely drive.
Yeah.
Just because having your car there is so valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a slight miscommunication about my accommodation and how far it would be from work. So I wasn't within walking distance. So I then had to hire a car to get to work, which just got a bit messy and stuff. And I was like, I should have just brought my own car, was my conclusion. But I think that's just a first contract kind of thing. And you don't know what to ask when you're starting a first contract. And so I think that's something that I really learned, and something that I guess I was looking for when I was starting is I wanted to talk to someone else that had done it, contract nursing, and could just be really honest with me and tell me what I need to know and what was really important to ask, that contracting hospital where I was.
Yeah.
And I really struggled to find that kind of anywhere. There was lots on social media about contracts are great, go and do it, you'll have a great adventure, but not those really practical tips about like what you really need to know or what you really
That's why I'm here. Yeah, this is why I'm here for Healthcare Australia as well. Is like I'm trying to reach out to people and have those real chats with them, because I'm an agency nurse myself and I've gone through all those hoops and I've gone through all those really bad moments and good moments, and it's not all, amazing that we talk about on social media. It is when you look at it, from a distance. But there are, some battles you have to go through, and I like to try and keep it real. And that's why these podcasts are really vital as well, because if someone wants to A, go to Tasmania, and B, it's their first contract, they're getting all these tips right now, being like, oh, okay, if I have the option to drive, I'm going to drive. I drove from Proserpine. That's like past Airlie Beach. I drove from there all the way down to Tasmania so I could have my car.
Yeah. Great. I would highly recommend. Yes, definitely. It was kind of good because I ended up, originally when I went down, I thought, I'll just hire a car on my days off so I could go and see some things. But I ended up seeing more because after a morning shift or before an afternoon shift, I was scooting around seeing extra things that I wouldn't have, because I probably wouldn't have hired a car for like just a morning shift day, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Another advice as well, like that I give to people is sometimes like it is a bit more than walking distance. I try to walk to work if I get pushed, because I'm like, a 25-minute walk or a 30-minute walk, to me, I'm getting my steps done, but obviously sometimes weather's a bit, on the downside. But I'm really good at communicating with staff at the hospital now, and I'm just like, I don't have a car. Who's on morning shift tomorrow? Does anyone want to swing by and get me? Like, I'm just really good at that now because I've done it for such a long time. But if it's your very first contract, you're already going through so many emotions. You don't want to be like, can someone give me a lift?
Please go and get me. Like there was a lot of agency midwives there when I was there, and it was really common for the taxis to just not show up for some of the girls.
I've heard of this. Were you at Northwest?
Yeah.
You and Bernie? Yeah, I was going to say that's, and I would have told you this. I would have said taxis are real bad at Bernie.
Yeah, so I felt like I could have hired myself out as a taxi, really, because it was quite normal for me to hop around and pick up all the agencies in my little hire car, and we'd all go to work together. Because the taxis were just so...
I have a good side gig opportunity here, guys. If you're listening, $5. No, just kidding. No, always just give each other lifts, because that's what we do, right? We help each other.
Yes.
So I went to Bernie as well. I was at Northwest. I loved it there. I was in the emergency department. It was so fun. But if you don't have a car, my goodness me, you would not see much, because like Tassie itself is very tiny, and there's not a lot of public transport. So go through, what did you pack? Let's go back and tell me what you packed, because I heard it was cold and I packed things, but it wasn't enough. I had to go to Kathmandu and get a jumper. I whinged and complained the whole time. I walked to work and I was like, I can't feel my earlobes. I was so cold.
What time of year were you there?
I went during summer. Okay, I was there between December and February, and I still complained so bad. So I don't like cold. I don't like the cold.
I guess coming from New South Wales, it does get cold here over winter. I found it similar to like a New South Wales winter kind of Canberra-like weather, I guess if anyone's from Canberra. But essentially I packed mainly like activewear, long tight activewear, jeans, long sleeve jumpers, long sleeve actual like fleecy jumpers and 2 puffers.
You packed appropriately.
Yeah. But I did pack my swimmers because I thought I was going to a beach holiday still in my mind.
And did you wear those swimmers?
Oh, no.
Yeah, God, no.
And then I walked outside and was like, oh, I can't do this. No.
It's really cold. And when I really warn people, like I literally went over summer and I'm still like, you make sure you bring fleece. Like it's cold. It's really cold.
As well. Like sometimes the heating, it depends where you are, but it gets really cold overnight and really windy overnight.
I bring an electric blanket in my car every placement I go to. That's how much I whinge and I hate the cold. So I have this electric blanket and it's so easy to pack because I used to travel with everything in my car. And yeah, it just perfectly fits. I actually had it behind my car seat. Like it would fit in that little slot if you tightened it up really good. So yeah, that's how cold I was. And I used to have a bath after night shift to try to defrost my body before I went to bed because I just felt like I was so frozen. But I loved those hot baths after night shift. That was so nice.
Lovely. I'd fall asleep in the bath probably after night.
It was a risky move, that is for sure. All right, so people listening to this will know exactly what to pack now. They can't turn back and be like, no one told me. We're telling you.
Yep.
Pack for cold weather. So what was the hospital like?
Yeah, so it was great. So on the ground, there's like the private and the public hospital kind of sharing the same space. They're kind of going through a transition period at the moment where it's all going to be public. That should be finalized within the next week or so. So when I was there, they were in that transition period of switching over from private to public with the maternity area. It was really great to work with other midwives. I've only ever worked either by myself on a shift, so just one midwife on the shift at a time, or I'll be out home visiting. So I'd come back at lunchtime and see some other people around who were also at home visiting, but not like with the midwife buddy all day long. So it was really great because there was like 6 midwives on a shift. I was like, oh my gosh, my people. I'm like spending time with you, not just at handover. So that was really great. I really liked that. They have a little nursery part of the maternity as well, which you can work in, if you feel comfortable as an agency midwife. I did a week in there, which was great. But it just depends on each person. Some people feel comfortable in that space and some people not so much. So that's so fine. And then there's a birth unit attached to the maternity ward where women have their babies. And there's always someone usually allocated down there, depending on how many women are giving birth at once. And that's one-on-one care for women if you're in labour, which is really special because a lot of other states in Australia don't have protected ratios like that. So to have one-on-one in labour was really great. And then it's kind of a shared ward. So there's some rooms that have 4 beds in them, some that are single rooms where women stay after they've had the baby for a few days to get things settled before heading home.
So good. Sounds like such a good experience. Now, how did you feel? Because I always love this feeling of like seeing other agency workers. Did you feel just like a kind of pull towards other agency where you kind of, I don't know, it's like you accelerated your friendship without even meaning to? Like, it's just because you just, you're in the same kind of bandwidth going on right now. Did you feel that?
Oh, absolutely. And it's something just like that feeling that, oh my gosh, someone else would understand exactly how I'm feeling right now. Or they could answer this question that might sound really strange, but they've probably experienced it themselves. So that's really lovely. And even I've come back to work at Young, and we have a HCA agency working at Young in maternity with us. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, are you with HCA? She's like, yeah. And I was like, I have so many questions. Let's talk some things out. Like, how is this? And what do you do in these situations? And so that was really great. And she had been to Burnie as well. So we'd worked with the same people like we did in the last 6 months. And like you said, that friendship, it just becomes really fast and you're suddenly
It's like an accelerated friendship. It's like all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, we're best friends now. You don't even mean it. It's just like, and it's like, whether they're HCA, whether another agency nurse, it doesn't matter. It's just like an agency thing. And it's actually quite a small community, because you will notice that, yeah, you'll meet some and then you'll realize that you've got mutual friends because they've worked at same places that you've worked at. And then you all know each other through this like weird little community. But I love it. I love the community so much. And then when a brand new person comes in, so you were like, a fresh little baby nurse, we'll be like, oh, baby midwife, we'll be like, oh my God, come into the circle.
We'll look after you. And I really like, because so many people just come and go and everyone overlaps a little bit. But there was this beautiful like pass on your food cycle going around.
Yeah, when you leave your house, you always give your food out.
Yes, exactly. So it was like it felt like a farmer's market. It's like, this is what I have. Would anyone like any of my food? So that was really cool. And
it's such a common thing, because like cling wrap and like, alf oil and salt and things, like if you flew, you would have to buy all that stuff. So you're just like, guys, this is worth a lot. Like, what would you like for my cling wrap?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, so good. Sounds like such a great experience. So I guess what's next? Like, so you've done your first contract. Do you have that little travel bug? Like, do you feel like you're like already kind of like, where do I want to go now?
Yeah, I definitely have the bug. I have a partner back home and I have a permanent job as well in New South Wales.
Okay. You're trying to juggle a lot there.
So, so I really enjoy my permanent role and I like the hospital that I'm at, but I'm just looking for a little break essentially. So when I did my contract down in Tasmania, I actually took annual leave to do that to agency, which
was it a 6-week contract or 4 weeks?
4 weeks.
Yeah.
So I'll probably do that again at some point next year and go somewhere else. My partner saw how much I liked it and now he wants to come. So that's great. We just have to find a role for him somewhere. But I've been chatting with a few midwives in the Northern Territory about possibly working up there. And my partner's a contract fencer, so he's a tradie essentially. They were like, oh, we would find him a job so fast if it meant you could stay a bit longer. That seems to be the sentiment everywhere I talk about, bringing partners with you. So definitely something to explore for next year. But
definitely an option. It does limit you in particular areas like that you want to go to, but those really rural areas, especially if you're comfortable in those really rural areas, they're the ones that are so desperate, and they're the ones that will definitely accommodate having things like partners or pets or something like that. And if he does have a trade or something and he could work in the town, like absolutely.
Okay, exactly. So it's just seeing like if that will fit in with contracting. Otherwise, I think I would just like to do like one contract a year just to see somewhere different. I think it's also helpful to assess your practice and really think about why you provide care in the way that you do, because each state has different policies and it really makes you think about, why do we do what we do in New South Wales compared to what we do in Tasmania? Are the women different? Absolutely not. We just have different ways of going about things. So that's been really helpful just to see maternity care bigger than my little hospital, kind of see it on a national level, get some new ideas to bring home as well, which has been really cool. See a bit more of Australia.
That's great. And you'll notice that because I've worked in every state of Australia now, everywhere does things different. Like every policy is different. Even just like giving particular antibiotics is different in every state. Like I'm just like, why don't we just use the injectables manual? But they're like, no, we do it like this. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, but it's just like, it makes you more aware that when you're about to do something, you're like, okay, why do they do this? Like, why is it that they're doing this? And yeah, you do learn a lot, that's for sure. And I actually love that you are, working full time and you're using your leave, because I guess a lot of nurses that I do, or midwives, that I do interview, a lot of them are like doing kind of the nomadic lifestyle, so they quit their job. Obviously, most of these people don't have a partner. And they're just like, exploring Australia. And that's what I did. And that's definitely a path you can do. And it's amazing. But, if you don't want to do that and you just want to stay in your comfortable, job, and you love your job and you want to use your leave, then you absolutely can do things like this. And you can, even do a bit of leave without pay if you wanted to extend into a 6-weeker or something like that. So you have the security back home, and that's totally fine. And you can still do that. So I really do love that that's exactly what you've done, because, that would be such an amazing thing every single year, being like, okay, I'm going to do NT this year and I'll use my leave. But you need to have a holiday too. But it is it's working holiday though, hey?
Yeah, definitely. And that's something that I think is important to mention as well. Like fatigue management is something to consider when you are doing that as well. And I probably underestimated that when I did my contracts. Where I currently work here at Young, I work full time, and then I also do almost full time on call hours as well, where I'm at home just available to be called in for an emergency. So I kind of thought, okay, when I'm on my, working holiday, I won't be doing the on-call hours, so I'll feel a bit more rested. Not the case.
It's because you're learning, right? You're learning, you're meeting new people, you're learning policies, and it actually takes you, I feel like it actually takes about the 4-week marker to really feel comfortable with your colleagues and the systems and protocols and everything. And then usually it's time to leave. But that 4 weeks is that sweet spot. So I always try to tell people to do like 6 or 8 weeks for their first placement, because it does take a lot of brain power. You get home and you're a bit like, whoa, what a day. And you're full of excitement too, right? You go through so many emotions. You're like so proud of yourself. And then you're also like super anxious. And then you're like, it's all the way.
Everything all at once. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, if you are going to use some annual leave to do a contract, have a week holiday as well at some point.
Yep. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yes, that would I tell my past self, definitely.
Oh, God. Well, this has been such a great interview. Thank you so much. I think if someone, is interested in Tasmania, we've been able to answer all their questions. Is there anything else you want to add? Like, is there any specific spots in Tasmania that you went to on your days off that were just absolutely epic that you want to share?
I think definitely like Cradle Mountain is stunning and beautiful, and catch it in the snow, it's just magical. Otherwise, the whole east coast, like including Hobart and Bruny Island, the Bay of Fide, which is way up the top, up the north. When I say way up the top, it's like 2 hours difference between the two.
It's like it's 3 hours from like Burnie to Hobart, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Quite a small little
definitely. So I think my favorite time in Tasmania, I road tripped like just the east coast and just stayed a different place each night and slowly made my way down. Beautiful, stunning, just untouched kind of beaches, and beautiful. Highly recommend.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you said Bruny Island. Did you stay at Bruny Island?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, so good. Yeah, it's so magical there, hey?
So sweet. And just, that's what I loved about Tasmania. It feels really rugged and like almost that no one's been there before. It has that natural beauty that still hasn't been, overpopulated or oversold, I guess, to tourism as well. So if you're experiencing it for the first time.
It's so nice. And I love the wildlife. There's just so, like, every single turn or corner you make, when you're going and you're walking outside, there's just some kind of creature. Like, but like a beautiful creature, like a little, and I thought a patamelon was a fake name. My housemate at the time said, oh, they're patamelons. And I totally thought she was like just saying kind of joke. And I didn't know her humor yet. And I was like, there's no such thing as a patamelon.
Well, in New South Wales, a patymelon is a weed. It looks like a little baby, like watermelon, but they're like really tiny, and they're called patymelons. And everyone was like, "Oh, have you seen the patymelons?" And they were so excited. I was like, "Why are you excited over an obnoxious weed? Like, this is so weird." And then, again, it dawned on me.
Found out it was a tiny little wallaby. Yeah. Okay, well, that's even more confusing for you that you actually have something that's called patamelon. I just thought it was a made-up name. I was like, what? That's a wallaby. What is a patamelon? That's not even a real name. But it is. I Googled it. It's real. Did you see an echidna?
I did, yeah.
How cute are they?
They're very sweet. They're quite relatively friendly. Like, we have them here at home as well, kind of out because they're quite rural. And we had one come up onto our veranda. This is not even Tasmania. This is just in New South Wales.
Oh, wow.
Our veranda and was sleeping under one of our like deck chairs the other week.
Cute.
Yeah, because he must have been a bit hot from the sun. He was very sweet. But,
that's what I
yeah.
miss about Tassie is just seeing all that wildlife. But at the moment, I'm in Brisbane. Like I barely see wildlife. Like you just see a couple of birds, you know, flying in the sky. That's as far as I get. Like, or maybe like a stray cat every so often. I don't see, you know, I don't see all this beautiful wildlife. So yeah, I really appreciated that when I was in Tassie. I loved I loved when the sun went down and all those little caterpillars were everywhere, and it was just like so beautiful. So 10 out of 10 recommend. Do you 10 out of 10 recommend?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's beautiful. Go for
Perfect.
it.
All right, pack your bags, everybody. Contact Healthcare Australia and get the ball rolling. But you can always, you know, and especially because you didn't know Meg to reach out. Like anyone listening to this, reach out to me. You know, I will give you the full truth. I'm an honest person. You know, I'll talk about the highs and lows. I'm Jess Tully on Facebook, or if you use Healthcare Australia Facebook or Instagram, just flick me a message and say, hey, Jess. Sometimes marketing also check the messages, but if you just go, hey, can I talk to Jess? I'll reply to you and we'll have a chat because that's what I love to do. I'm a little chatterbox. So, and this is my favorite topic ever. So exciting. Well, thank you so much, Meg, for taking the time out of your day and speaking with me on For the Health of It. We so appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm excited to follow your journey from now on and see what your next contract is, hey?
Yeah. Let's wait and see what happens next.
All right, everybody. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to give it 5 stars and just message if you have any questions. All right. Bye, everybody.